Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. Now in this video, we are going to discover the top 5 reasons why students are starting to fail their oral. Now this video is focused on discussing some of the unspoken truths and I don't think you will find this anywhere else. So if you think that you're faring poorly in oral, do stay tuned and watch till the end of the video. Now, bear in mind that there are two parts of oral, right? It's not just speaking. First of all, you have to think about listening. Now, the students need to learn how to listen carefully before responding so as to give a relevant answer. So oftentimes when I practice with my students, I realize that they are poor listeners, right? They did not get the gist of the question, and as a result, they digress. So even after repeating the questions 2, 3 or more times, right? They forget about the question, as they was talking, right? And then they just went off track. So if that's the case, then you're not going to score very well for the oral examination. Now, the other part, of course, is speaking. Okay, students need to demonstrate that they are able to articulate well and deliver their ideas fluently. So if you find that during your practice, you are very hesitant, okay, and your delivery is very choppy, you're running out of ideas, usually that means you lack practice, okay, but there may be other factors that are at play. So in this video, we are going to look at what those factors are, and hopefully I can give you some useful tips and advice to help you to overcome some of those challenges. Let's take a look at listening skills first. Now, students are not used to listening to key ideas when engaged in a conversation. Now, this is very apparent when I tell short stories during my lessons, and some of students immediately they can zoom in on the key ideas and they can tell me, oh, Mr. Chow, this is what you mean. Oh, the parents are doing this, the students are doing that. And that's fine, right? That's a very good sign that the students are listening to the key ideas. Because when I tell the stories, there are a lot of information, a lot of details that are given. So if students do not have this skill to distill and filter the information and just pay attention to the key ideas, they might find the information to be overwhelming, and as a result they get confused. All right, so when listening to questions, that's the same, right? Especially for an O-level oral examination, sometimes the question can be a bit lengthy, but just by lengthening the question doesn't mean that the question becomes a lot more challenging, right? Because if you have the skills to just distill, to just the essence of what the question is asking you, then I think you should still be able to answer the question reasonably well. Okay. So these students tend to miss certain important keywords, and the result is, they find themselves in a hit and miss situation, right? That means the consistency is not there. So sometimes they can answer very well, but oftentimes they go off track and hope that their answers are still relevant, right? And they actually know themselves, right? Because they don't truly understand the question because they have missed certain keywords. So that's what I just said. Students sometimes give relevant answers and oftentimes they don't. And by the way, even though this is an oral video, this also affects their listening comprehension, and students find themselves struggling with the LC, right? Getting borderline pass or even fail. So that's not a good sign. As for speaking skills, so what I find is that when I speak to students, they often reply in one-word answers. So I like to start the lesson by talking to the students first, right? Just talk to them face to face, ask them how did you spend your holidays, right? How have you been doing? How did you spend the week? And I often get one-word replies, right? So for example, they just say good, fine, okay, and that's it. So there's an absence of details. Now, if they don't condition themselves to give details when speaking to others, then it's just going to be a habit. And they find that they cannot perform during the oral examination because they're just not used to giving details. And if suddenly they find that they have to think very, very hard just to be able to come up with something to say. We are not even talking about having good quality answers, right? They just have to think very hard, waste a lot of time just to think of something to say. So reflect upon that, right? Think about what you say the next time somebody talk to you. Did you give, a more complete answer rather than just a one-word answer? All right. So this means that the students don't usually practice speaking even when the opportunity presents itself, right? So for me, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm the tutor, I want to create these opportunities for students to be able to speak. I do not like students who sit through the entire class, entire lesson, 2 hours, and they didn't speak a single word, right? They don't even ask questions, and when I speak to them, they give one-word answers or they just nod their head, and then that's the end of the lesson. So that's not good, okay? Now, opportunities to speak usually emerge when students are with others, right? When you're with your teachers, when you're with your parents, friends, and even relatives. But even when we find that we are among people, okay, we are actually not really listening and speaking to one another, right? We'll talk more about this later on in the video. So that leads us to the question, why are students not getting the practice that they need? So if they don't get the practice, for sure, they're getting from bad to worse. So I did this video because I realized that when I teach, I tell my students that practice during lessons is not enough, right? Because during a lesson, sometimes there are just like 2 or 3 students, and then I ask them a few questions, and the time just flew by, and then it's over, right? So there's limited practice. So outside of the classroom, I give them a ton of tips, right, as to how to improve their oral. But I'm starting to notice that, even when I give my advice and I give my tips, students, well, they kind of hear it, right? But when they come back during the next practice, I notice that they are not improving, all right? Why is that the case? So that leads me to reflect on what is happening. Something is happening, all right? And that's why I'm making this video. So let's explore why students are getting worse in oral. 5 reasons. The first one, students are not being proactive about developing their oral skills. When they are not spoken to, they just don't speak. Now, usually, and I've been teaching for about 10 years, what I notice in students is that the better students are always proactive. It's not just in oral, in writing, in their homework, in their learning, right? They do extra homework. They submit extra essays for me to mark, right? That means extra work for me. But I'm happy to get, this kind of responses because I know that will accelerate their learning. Whereas 8 out of 10 students that I'm getting, they are usually not that proactive, okay, about their learning, and that includes oral. So when I don't talk to them, they just don't speak, right? They don't talk to me, they don't even talk to their friends, and they just keep quiet, right? Very passive. Well, the solution, of course, is for them to start being more proactive and to start talking to people. And realize that there are many benefits, right? So once you break the ice, you're talking to the person on your left, you're talking to the person on your right. At the right time, don't talk during lessons, right? You talk during breaks, right? Break the ice and realize that, well, you can actually make more friends and actually people are rather easy to talk to. So that will give yourself more opportunities to practice your oral. Now, reason number 2, some students are just shy and introverted as it is in their nature, right? And these students simply don't enjoy talking and prefer to spend time alone. A lot of times, right, they like to sit in their quiet corner, maybe read a book, watch a video, right? And they just don't enjoy talking to people, right? Now, there's no quick and easy solution for this reason. But what I suggest is introverted people, I'm an introvert, right? So what I find helps is that these students can start talking to just 1 or 2 of somebody who are very close to them, their personal friends, instead of being around big groups of people all the time, right? So shy people tend to shy away even more in big groups. But when you're just with 1 or 2 people, it's just easier to talk to others. So that will help them build up the confidence gradually. And if you think about it, the oral examination, the student is not surrounded by a big group of people, right? You are not expected to do public speaking. You're just talking to, a couple of examiners at most, right? So practicing such conversations will gradually help the student improve, okay? So don't give up talking to people, right? Shy doesn't mean you have to just be quiet all the time. Okay, you still have thoughts, you still have ideas. You still have challenges. Maybe you want to talk to your friends about problems, about your latest trip, family vacation. You can always talk to people. All right. Reason number 3. Why some students are not getting better? Well, they get extremely nervous during an oral examination and they just freeze. But it's not just during oral examination. Some students do get nervous when they talk to adults, right? When they talk to teachers, for example. And even when given more time, they may or may not come up with something to say. So if you say nothing during the oral exam, you're just going to flunk, right? You're going to fail the examination. So you just have to try to come up with things to say. Now the solution, of course, I think you get a lot of tips, right? I have previous videos about how to overcome nervousness. But we come to think that it is fine to be nervous, right? A little bit of nervous, even very nervous, but not to the point where you freeze and then you cannot perform, right? You still have to function. So it is perfectly possible for students to be nervous and still be functional at the same time, right? So with that, you just have to practice listening and speaking so that you can perform even when you are nervous, right? For those students who don't practice and you're nervous and you find yourself freezing, you will end up failing the exam, okay? So practice, practice, practice. And reason number 4, students just don't get enough opportunities outside of their classroom to practice listening and speaking. And I think this has a little bit to do with being proactive as well. You don't sit and wait for the opportunities to come. Sometimes you just have to create those opportunities by yourself. Okay, so that's the solution, right? You need to learn how to create more opportunities for yourself. So for example, if you want to improve on your listening, listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and this can improve listening skills. Watch news broadcasts to pick up speaking skills. Observe how other people speak. Speak often with others and make sure you elaborate and give details. Now, if you're alone most of the time, you can even go as far as practicing in front of a mirror, right? If there's a will, there's a way. How desperate are you to want to improve your language skills, your oral skills, okay? But like I said, having said that, right, I give the same advice to some of my students during lessons, and I find that they just don't go out and do it, right? I ask them what's the latest English program that you have watched. Nothing. Latest English book that you have read. Nothing. Okay, so as a result, the improvement is very, very slow. Okay. And the last reason, and I feel this is the reason that we should start a conversation about it, right? Because I think it's just getting from bad to worse, and everyone is staring at their screens, right? More and more people are just spending more time on their screens, and it's not just for students, right? I think adults are the same. Okay, so when students are at home, you find that the parents, the siblings, most of them are staring at their screens, they're watching videos, doing their own thing, and you're not talking to one another, right? When parents pick up their children from school, they are staring at their phones instead of welcoming their children and starting a conversation with them. Okay, when in school, friends are staring at their screens. Well, you can say you're among friends in school, right? In your CCA, in school, but you're not talking. Okay. And during social gatherings, right, festivals, whatever, right, at relatives' homes, people are just in a world of their own, typing on their phones instead of talking to one another. All right. So solution, of course, very simple, right? When around people, just put down the electronic devices and start communicating. So everyone has a part to play. Teachers, parents, siblings, students, right? when you're having dinner at home, you sit down with your siblings and your parents, make it a rule that everybody, cannot have access to their electronic devices. Then people will start talking, they'll start chatting, start talking about the news, right? The news headlines, keep each other updated, right? To create that awareness. Now, all these things, all these activities are very important to help the students develop their oral skills, develop their awareness, so that they have content for their oral and for their essays. Okay, so I think this is very important, and I do hope if you find this conversation, right, on this reason to be very important enough, do share the video with others, right, so that they are more aware of it, and then you can start noticing what is happening around you, right? When you're around people, are you just looking at your screens, or are you talking to one another? Okay, so with that said, right, we have come to the conclusion of this video, right? Remember that developing oral skills is not a one-time event, right? It's not that you just sit for the oral examination, get it over with, score well, and you are done, right? You have to continue developing the oral skills. It is a lifelong event, right? A lifelong activity, okay? The more one uses the language, the better one becomes, and the converse is also true, right? If you think that after your oral, you don't need to speak again, then you're going to grow rusty and you're going to lose some of that language ability, okay? So just keep listening and speaking to others, and I think you will do well in the oral examination. All right, so we've come to the end of the video. If you're serious about improving your language skills, not just your oral skills, just visit englishttution.org. And if you like this video, it's free and it will certainly help the channel, right? Just leave a like or subscribe to the video so that you will get notified for the next English language video. Okay, and so with that said, thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.